Last week, we started a conversation that I feel is very important to the longevity of Pokémon GO. That's a conversation about how stats work in this game. In the main series Pokémon games, Pokémon each have 6 stats: HP, Attack, Defense, Special Attack, Special Defense, and Speed. Last week, we talked about how speed was underrepresented in Pokémon GO. This week, I want to shift our focus to another offensive imbalance. In the main series games, Pokémon had 2 offensive and defensive stats: Attack and Defense, and Special Attack and Special Defense. And the way that those 2 stats got combined in Pokémon GO left a lot of Pokémon out in the cold. The formula for attack in Pokémon GO is 2 times the product of base attack to the half power times base special attack to the half power plus speed to the half power, and it heavily favors Pokémon who had high attack and special attack stats. Let me explain how the physical special split works in Pokémon. Attack and special attack each affect different moves. Some moves are designated as physical. These are moves like Thunder Punch or Karate Chop that are obvious physical attacks. On the other hand, some moves are designated as special, like Ice Beam or Psychic, and these are more elemental or energy attacks that don't require physical combat. This separation allows Pokémon to excel in different types of combat. Some Pokémon, like Machamp or Rhydon, are strong physical attackers, where others, like Alakazam and Gengar, are strong special attackers. And all 4 of these examples have some of the highest attack or special attack stats in the original Pokémon games. But in Pokémon GO, they're all extremely underpowered because their opposite stat, either attack or special attack, is low, and it brings their total attack power down. Last week, we talked about how Alakazam is underpowered because speed is underrepresented in Pokémon GO. But there's actually another factor at work. Alakazam has 135 base special attack, which is the highest special attack stat in first generation aside from Mewtwo. Alakazam's base attack is only 50, and because Pokémon GO comes up with an attack stat by essentially averaging a Pokémon's attack and special attack stats together, Alakazam comes out way underpowered. On the other hand, mixed attackers like Arcanine and Victreebel, whose base attack and special attack stats are both above average, have some of the highest attack stats in Pokémon GO. When you're going from a 2-stat system down to a 1-stat system, obviously you're going to lose some depth. But the formulas could be designed in a way that retains some of the Pokémon's originally intended power. To continue using Alakazam as an example, it has 135 base special attack and only 50 base attack, but honestly that base attack stat doesn't matter at all, because Alakazam's intended purpose is to be a special attacker, a Pokémon who uses its special stat to deal the most possible damage using special attacks. Exeggutor, on the other hand, is a better mixed attacker. It has 125 base special attack and 95 base attack. But when it comes down to it, Alakazam will always deal more damage than Exeggutor using a special move like Psychic because Alakazam's special attack stat is higher. In Pokémon GO, however, Alakazam deals a lot less damage than Exeggutor because its attack stat suffers as a result of its low original physical attack stat. Exeggutor has 232 base attack in Pokémon GO, while Alakazam's is only 186. Because Pokémon GO's attack formula gives equal weight to both attack and special attack, Pokémon like Alakazam, who specialized in one or the other, deal much less damage than their original stat distribution intended for them to. I've come up with a proposed formula that takes into account a Pokémon's physical or special emphasis and gives appropriate weight to each of the stats when calculating its new attack stat for Pokémon GO. With Alakazam, for example, its 135 special attack makes up 73% of its total attack power, while its 50 attack makes up just 27%. My new formula gives 73% weight to Alakazam's special attack stat, so that his new attack stat in Pokémon GO more accurately reflects his actual maximum power. With the new formula, mixed attackers like Arcanine and Exeggutor don't see much change to their attack stats, but specialized attackers like Alakazam, Rhydon, and Machamp see huge increases to their attack stat so that they can actually compete with the Pokémon who currently dominate gyms. To review, the current attack formula in Pokémon GO is 2 times attack to the half power times special attack to the half power plus speed to the half power. And here's a list of all Pokémon ordered by their current attack stat in Pokémon GO. Mewtwo's the highest, followed by Dragonite, Moltres, Flareon, Zapdos, Exeggutor, Arcanine, Victreebel, and so on. This list also includes each Pokemon's attack, special attack, and speed as they are in the main series games. To give you a baseline, the average base attack and special attack stats are both right around 70, just like speed. And you can see here that the list is currently dominated by Pokemon who are above average in both attack and special attack. If we scroll down the list a little, you can see that Pokemon like Blastoise and Lapras, whose attack and special attack stats are both just above average, actually have higher attack stats in Pokemon GO than Pokemon like Kingler or Pinsir, who are meant to be able to deal much more damage than either Blastoise or Lapras. Blastoise and Lapras aren't meant to be offensive Pokemon, so there's no reason they should be able to deal more damage than an attacker like Pinsir. Unfortunately, because Pinsir's special attack stat is below average, it brings his attack stat in Pokemon GO down, leading to him being less capable offensively than defensive Pokemon like Blastoise and Lapras. My proposed formula aims to fix this by giving the proper weight to Pinsir's attack stat so that his attack in Pokemon GO accurately reflects his intended offensive power. Here's the formula. I know it looks a little confusing at first, but I promise it's a lot simpler than you think. Essentially what it does is find the percentage of total attack power that attack and special attack each make up so that it can give the appropriate weight to each individual stat. As an example, let's look at Alakazam, who has 50 base attack and 135 base special attack. If we plug those numbers into the formula, we see that Alakazam's attack makes up 27% of his total attack power, and his special attack makes up 73%. So now instead of attack and special attack being valued equally, each individual stat is weighted according to the percentage of total power that it actually makes up. If we go back to the list and calculate each Pokemon's attack according to my new formula, the results look like this. Right now, Alakazam sits way down here at number 30, despite having the second highest special attack stat in all of first generation. If we sort the list by the new attack stats, Alakazam moves all the way up to number 6. This is a much more appropriate rank for Alakazam. With 135 special attack, he should be able to deal more damage than almost any other Pokemon in the game. You can see that the rest of the list has changed considerably also, and the rankings now more accurately reflect each Pokemon's intended offensive power. If Alakazam and Exeggutor were both to use Psychic, Alakazam would now deal more damage, just as it was intended according to their original base stats. Pokemon like Machamp and Rhydon, who have some of the strongest physical attack stats in the game, move much closer to the top of the list, and Pinsir now sits much closer to the top with the other intended strong attackers, while Blastoise and Lapras have fallen considerably to a position that's much more appropriate for Pokemon who are meant to be defensive. If we sort the list by net change, you can see that mixed attackers aren't hurt at all by the new formula. Arcanine and Victreebel, who are currently some of the strongest attackers, keep the exact same attack stats. But if we look at the opposite end, you can see that the Pokemon who benefit the most from this change are Pokemon with specialized attack stats. Pokemon like Hitmonlee, Rhydon, and Alakazam all see huge increases to their attack power in Pokemon GO. If we go back to sorting by current attack stats, let's say we choose 200 as the cutoff for top tier attack stat. 15 Pokemon currently have an attack stat of 200 or higher. If we go back to sorting by the new attack stat according to my proposed formula, you can see that now 37 Pokemon have an attack stat of 200 or higher, which means now more than twice as many Pokemon would be considered top tier offensive attackers. This means players now have more viable choices when attacking gyms, and giving players more options is never a bad thing. And we accomplish all this without actually increasing the range of attack stats by a significant amount. Currently, the highest attack stat belongs to Mewtwo at 284, and the lowest attack stat is Chansey at 40. This is a range of 244. With my new formula, Mewtwo's attack stat is now 294, and the lowest attack stat is Magikarp at 44, a range of 250. So there's not really much of a change between the strongest and the weakest Pokemon. We just see a lot more Pokemon at the usable end of the spectrum. At the end of the day, implementing this change to the attack formula alongside my suggested speed changes would make Pokemon like Alakazam completely overpowered, so they would need to be balanced if they were going to work together. But in my opinion, this change to the attack formula benefits a lot more Pokemon than the speed changes. Pokemon like Rhydon and Golem are strong physical attackers who suffer under the current formula because their special attack stats are very low. With my speed changes, they actually suffer even more because they're slow Pokemon, so they're already underpowered, and they would be dealing less damage per second because of their low speed stats. In a vacuum, if Niantic were to make only one of my suggested changes, I think the changes to attack formula are better because it benefits more Pokemon. But in reality, I'd like to see the two balanced together in some way, so that specialized attackers like Rhydon or Alakazam have much more accurate attack power in Pokemon GO, and Pokemon who relied on speed, like Jolteon, get to use that to some advantage. This series of videos continues. We'll talk more about how stats need to be improved, like defensive stats, and how HP contributes way too much to a Pokemon's overall power. We'll also talk about other improvements that can be made, like move changes, and how some Pokemon, even with decent stats, can't be competitively viable because they just have such poor options for moves. There's so much more to talk about, and I'm really excited to continue the conversation with you guys. But for now, that's it for this one, and I'll see you tomorrow. We're here in Chinatown today, and we're gonna try out the new nearby system. So the way it works is, you see here, there's a separated tab for nearby and sightings. Sightings works the same way that you're used to. It shows Pokemon with a picture of tall grass. Apparently there's no Pokemon around here, but the new nearby system shows you a picture of a Pokestop behind each Pokemon.